So let me tell you about them slamming jaws shut when people are on life support to fracture the tube and let them suffocate. I also witnessed, in various places, them disconnecting the ventilator and spraying pepper spray in the trach tube. Kentucky didn't see this as a problem. I found it to be a huge problem, just like them spraying pyrethrins, industrial strength neurotoxins, in my face after doing that. Just like when I sliced my head open accidentally at the Wood residence one day cleaning. Donald was home that day. I'm surprised Debbie didn't scold me more for ruining one of her bandanas with blood. Oh well. I feel just like Rosemary in that movie. Any more talk of witchcraft, or Satanism, or secrets? We'll be forced to take you to the hospital, Rosemary. So let me tell you how Susie Pratt, Maysville tourism director, or formerly, said she saw me winding up in hospital. They would probably ask how long I've been threatening my parents with legal action. Well, I threatened to call the law enforcement when I was 6 years old after I had been raped by my father and his buddies. But he threatened to kill me then, along with them doing it too. My mother and sister, just as devious and evil as he is. My mom used to take my cousin Kevin Bly into my father's bedroom, turn the light off, and they would pretend to be Catholic, and he would confess his sins. Oh, Kevin. Oh, Kevin. When he lived at 9002 Cabin Creek Pike, renting it from my father, he and my sister would sit there and get a little tipsy on the whiskey. When she came back from Biloxi Beach, Mississippi, during her Maysville Technical College days, my mother had discovered her stash of whiskey. I'm pretty sure Bonnie was buying it for her, just like Kevin, but I could be wrong. And like I said, after I had been raped the first time, I woke up in excruciating pain around 7. I think I was 7 that night I'm thinking of. Excruciating pain. Like, what is going on? And then feeling alcohol being poured in my throat until I blacked out. Sheriff Wynn's territory then. They want to come in and slam my head against the table and arrest me and hold me down until I'm suffocated and trigger the PTSD of conversion reparative therapy that no doctor ever documented because, it's not paranoia. I usually saw doctors in their network, at least in Kentucky. Ohio, I tried to find psych professionals here that could take Medicaid. Yeah, right. There are like 2 within 200 miles, other than Greater Cincinnati Behavioral Health, and they're yep, you guessed it, drug addiction thing. Well, I told that therapist about being human trafficked and raped and stuff. I hope she reported it back to Mason County court system with Cameron Blau signing off on my sister's story. My sister, who would punch me in the mouth just for sitting there quietly, and then later in life tell me to eat her vagina. And my mother, who would sit and jerk me off of a morning, pretty much. It's my perception, not theirs. She put her mouth on my penis when I was younger. That's why I would take that doll and rub it all over myself. Do you think they offered me therapy? No. We had to go to comprehend because of my mother's or whoever's issues. And then comprehend would ask me to leave the room. If I refused because I thought I should sit in with what they were talking about, my sister would grab my arm and yank me as hard as she could out of the room, and then I couldn't remember anything. But then again, my father's the one who testified, saying that I was the one bringing drugs home, when in reality, she was the one doing it. Daddy Brindley, she dated Milton Brindley Jr. He subbed for David Buchanan one day in Mason County High School. So let me tell you all about this and law enforcement blaming mental health for their reason behind not taking a statement. We saw you doing this. People reported this. It wasn't me. I don't like it when the alternates, as I call them, express themselves. That's why Kim Razor should not have, did her thing without due process, but that's just my opinion. Like I said, if she had met with me for even 30 seconds, I would have clicked the pin. It's gonna all blow up. It's gonna blow up in our faces. This is not a threat. I hate guns. I don't want to hurt you. I hope you live so long you fucking rot. Just like I did after being served bleach because they didn't want me singing. That's how ritualistic the abuse was. That's how ritualistic the abuse was. Bonnie, I heard you singing in the shower. Yeah, I have a good voice, don't I? All the church women love it when I sing. Aunt Lula Ackley and Aunt Josie Wagner, they just love it when I sing. My mother poisoned me with bleach that day. They would not leave a cup on the counter, my own cup for me. They expected me to pick up this heavy step stool after they had done what they did with foot drop, totally undocumented, even though I've mentioned it time and time again. So the cup that I normally drank out of on the counter, I didn't smell the bleach in it. It was enough to burn my throat till I started vomiting blood. Do you think they did anything? Absolutely not. Wrigley's spearmint and a free trip up on the ridge to bring their cows down for milking. Who do you think were? Oh well. So let me tell you the story they told me. My mother had smothered me with a pillow, and I was just lucky that my Aunt Bonnie had stopped by after work at Jockey International that day and found me and resuscitated me, took me up to Nan and Bill's and called the law, called the law. And then later on, after being returned to their care, her grabbing me by my ankles and swinging me around, smacking me as hard as she could. My life has been nothing but an experiment in terror. By the time I had my tonsils removed when I turned 18, the doctor asked how I was even able to breathe. And now my family, because I'm telling this story, wants to kick my ass to the curb, which is quite fine with me. I don't blame them at all. I don't feel persecuted by it. But at the same time, it makes me sick that they would get away and do what they, think is right without ever hearing my side of the story. Whereas I had to listen to Donna talk about Kentucky Colonel Kenneth Werline ripping her dress off of her in front of in a group of his friends. She failed to listen to any of my stories. And guess what? Uncle Kenneth and Auntie Imogene came to visit us regularly. Man, what a sweet Park Avenue. Does it have the supercharged 3800 in it? And then Donna, what in the world are you talking about? Mommy didn't like anybody. She loved me. And she loved your daughter dearly because she knew what a bitch you are to her. My cousin Brandy, she's an amazing lyricist, Brandy Bradshaw. She's been excessively force arrested by Mason County before, too. Put in a suicide cell, forced into comprehend, and guess what? They drooled over her pussy, too. So let me tell you about Mason County's finest, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, investigating their use of excessive force with chokeholds against adolescents and them finding no wrongdoing. It is a pattern. It's not an isolated incident. The one I'm speaking about, the 4th Street people, that African American boy, yeah, they might have been yelling at each other. There's no use in putting people in chokeholds just because they disagree. I was put in chokeholds for simply disagreeing with medical diagnoses quietly. Plus, I speak louder because I am hard of hearing. But it's just one mess after the other. I try to sit and speak quietly, But like I said, Tourette's is a covered disability in public. Case law. A woman getting kicked out of Walmart by security because her auditory Tourette's offended someone. She won big. And that's another reason they failed to ever document mine. You're not smart enough. You didn't go to college to be a doctor. Oh well. So thank you all so much for covering for those people that were human trafficking me. Let me just make out that list of doctors involved. Not as a hit list, for a case. So let me tell you about Malibu Barbie Boggs, Patrick's wife. Yeah. I call her Malibu Barbie, like I said, because she's such a bitch. See, she won't even say hello. That day at Kroger, I was going to pick up my opiate-based pain management. Of course, Patrick likes to gossip anyway. But I spoke to Ellen, because she's the one always forced to fill my prescriptions, because Mrs. Boggs won't do it. Or wouldn't. I said, "Hi, Ellen, how are you today?" And then once Ellen and I had exchanged, pleasantries, I said, "Hi, Christy." She looked at me like a piece of shit, then looked back at her pills and back at her computer. Ellen apologized for the manager. And then Christy was no longer at Kroger. Anyway, like I said, she went to Mason Family Drug after that, and we all know the Mason family story as I've told it. So, huge thank you to you all for continually trying to crush me out just because you don't like what happened. They weren't hallucinations, they weren't delusions. Unfortunately, it would have been a blessing if they had been at this point. That's just like me having a stroke and collapsing in the science wing in Mason County High School with their drug sales and Homeland Security as the school board. I hate to comment on an open case, but I've been keeping up with Jefferson County. That search warrant issued by that judge in the Breonna Taylor case, if I read it correctly, they certified, or the cops testified, we went to the major mail carrier. They stated the packages were illegal. Well, I wonder how they would know that. Was it... Anyway, the smartest move there to avoid liability would have been confiscating the goddamn packages and hand-delivering them once you verified they were good or not. But no, they decided to go gung-ho, full force, like they always do. My first thought was, after reading just print, Kelly Goodlett. She must be a pretty good-looking woman. Oh, I was right. And her ties to the detention center in Jefferson County. Let me use Mason County as the example of how that situation works, and internal affairs as well. So, New York was cool. I don't like their traffic. Do not like their traffic at all. At all. The Real Housewives of New York's one of my favorite. Other than Beverly Hills. Kyle Richards coming back to Halloween. Woo! Never. So let me tell you how I couldn't even sleep where my legal residence is because of people who, got tired of my mouth and claimed this is this and that is that. It was quite sickening. So let me tell you about being yanked to the floor, mashed like a potato repeatedly. I tried to file charges. Mr. Boggs says he doesn't remember telling me to shut the fuck up, but that it might have happened. Well, I'm telling you, Patrick, it did. You were more worried about what Alfred Sims had said about you in your, whatever. My mother wanting me out so she can have more penis. I hope her and Kevin and his non-9-inch dick have fun. So let me tell you about Dravo Carmoose and the hell that I went through in Mason County, Kentucky as a gay farm kid with a mental and physical disability, a major federal civil rights violation, a hate crime. You all saw Queer as Folk where Justin Taylor got bludgeoned? Well, mine was on the top versus the side. Just like when I got pushed down the basement stairs that day. Who am I speaking to? The entire world. I sing my song for whoever happens along. Let me tell you about them grabbing my crotch in the school district. As I said, I was anally sodomized at least twice that I can remember. Not a drug search, sodomized. They didn't want to hear that either. I tried to report it. Charlotte Wentz told me to get your ass out of my office. All the while bitching at Deshays that she needed her steak because she had to get back to Straub. Oh well, so let me tell you how they blamed it all on Tim Moore. Let me tell you about Wendell Mason and the Mason family. Oh well. Boo-hoo. So let me tell you about law enforcement doing property damage, me covering it for them while my mother. Here's the best clue. Patrick never said that. Sheriff Boggs never said that, but he did. So let me tell you about Uncle Patrick and Malibu Barbie, them constantly harassing me. Let me tell you about Van Ingram, director of Kentucky Narcotics, and his homophobic family. Me getting to deal with his nephew, Phil. Now legal. My parents are homophobic. Are they? My apologies. I don't have an outlet either. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for something for children that don't have anything. Hamilton County's known about the Mason County situation for a long, long, long time. And guess what? All they could do was bitch about the cannabis, too. Like I said, with Charmaine McGuffey making that statement, I'm going to make an example out of that guard. You never say those types of things. Your speechwriter needs reviewed. It's called sabotage. You never say those kinds of things that will come back to bite you in the ass bigger than shit. You best believe it. I could see by the look on her face as soon as she said it, with those two goons, no offense, on her side. Help me! As soon as she said it, I'm going to make an example of... I'm pretty sure that's what the television said, but... You never say things like that. Maybe I misheard the statement. It'd be different if cannabis were totally illegal in Ohio, but it's not. And guess what? I'm on the ACLU's side. Chronic pain patients who are incarcerated for nothing or cancer patients being withheld pain management is cruel and unusual punishment. Federal courts agreed with my stance in Fayette County on the use of excessive force in withholding controlled substances, much like Sergeant David Abner with Mason County Detention Center did with me and Lyrica, an anticonvulsant medication. She said it's a narcotic. Whoever she is an idiot. It's a controlled substance. Or an opiate or something. I can't remember how he worded it. He didn't even write down the drugs he did administer. But guess what? That gets passed right on down to John Q. Taxpayer in case the state or federal government fines them. And why do they care about paying for taxes? They're allowed to take makeup, clothing, gear off on their taxes. Where did I go to law school? Wouldn't they love to know? I wanted to sell when my father died, especially with people throwing kids' diapers and articles of clothing out on the farm along Springdale Road. I tried to report that too, only to be told to stop complaining. Just like when Devin came out to get me that day. I told him, I'm like, I didn't say this, but I'm like, I hate to be a bitch, but my left hand is kind of caught weird. If you're going to do nothing but complain, put them in front of you. Sorry. Sorry that you all fucked with me repeatedly. Let me tell you about Darren and bar hopping. I like Darren. I like Darren a hell of a lot more than his son. I like Darren a hell of a lot more than his son. Darren might have been kind of tipsy that one night, but he was kind of fun. Nothing happened. Oh, there is a pause on it. I feel like an old dementia patient now. No offense to the elderly. After Kim Razor's thing with Zyprexa in Eastern State Hospital, the University of Kentucky purchased Eastern State Hospital, and let me tell you about both facilities. On the intake paperwork, atheist. Their treatment changed dramatically. Oh well. Let me tell you about a gun in my side, then a knee. Let me tell you about Jeff and Jason. I call them Smoothie and Sneaky. I used to forget their names. Not that they're identical twins, but Smoothie and Sneaky. Sneaky's the realtor. He left the force, about 15 or 16 years ago? Oh, and Timmy. How could I forget Timmy and their own private narcotics task force?